One of these is her real face mesh and the other is a reverse engineered copy. Can you spot the fake? This is the copy, and this is the character's real face mesh. The copy was built from scratch using reverse engineering, and while a few details do out it as the fake, most of the fundamental features are captured. In this video, I'll reveal the secrets of reverse engineering 3D models, a skill that can instantly boost your 3D modeling and allow you to mimic or incorporate professional 3D art styles. The first step to acquiring a model's secret sauce is a microscopic investigation. I identify patterns and techniques used within their mesh. There is a diamond-shaped loop around the mouth that houses the circular loops that make up the lips. These loops not only provide the best structure and deformation for the lips later, but stay functional during the modeling and shape key creation phases as they can conveniently edge select all the way around and slide at will. The placement of this loop varies. Some games have this diamond larger and out wider. When it's wider like this, the circle loop zone also widens for easier expression control and mouth deforms. But Wuwa's more compact version allows for cheek-chin edges to flow more naturally and be easier to manage at quarter angles. At the center of this is the signature Wuwa lip line and the infamous pout that commonly goes along with it, which is textured precisely within the edges to achieve pseudo-infinite resolution. Next, the loop structure around the eyes not only house the eye socket and guide the contours of the brow ridge, but the edges also run parallel with the lashes, eyelid crease, and eyebrows. I'll touch on the bonuses of doing this later. This goes hand in hand with the nose's edge flow, which is super minimal for this model, and thin. One of their model's standout features is their beautiful profile view, which we can replicate by following the classic rule of the lips not exceeding the nose to mouth boundary and forming this distant bird shape in the negative space. I'll reveal more features as we go along. Let's begin the recreation. The goal of this phase is just to get the form established. We'll recreate the mesh from the ground up and make sure to include all the concepts that we found earlier. Perfection is not needed at this point. Think of it like the first drive that quickly gets us 90% of the way there, and then we increase focus on the art style specific details. By the way, today's whole raw process is available for free on my Patreon, and the project files are available in the $5 tier along with a bunch of recent drops. Alright, we break down this mesh to its most elementary shape. To me, this looks like a simple kite shield, so if we use that shape while capturing the flow around the chin, then we've already got our foot in the door. To do this, start by simply adding a plane to the scene. Rotate it 90 degrees to face you, and use auto mirror to split it into two symmetrical halves. Move the middle verts very slightly forward, do a horizontal loop cut across the plane, and from side view take these two bottom points, scale them down, and move them forward. Take this middle top vertex and move it forward. This will set up the forehead area. You might notice this is a similar process to the one in this past video, but stay tuned because it's further optimized and tailored to this specific art style. Now make two vertical loop cuts like this, and while still selected, move them slightly forward, creating a curve. Do two horizontal loop cuts on the top half and three on the bottom half. Face select this bottom corner face and delete all of its vertices. Select these 3 points and make a face. Then select this edge and make a face. Slide these points in the corner more towards the middle, like this. Then select this point under the midline and move it forwards and slightly upwards. Use the knife tool and cut straight across to the middle like this. Then enter sculpt mode. Let's turn on wireframe so that we can clearly see which points are being moved by the grab brush. And let's use that grab brush to bring in these points closer to the middle like this. Contour the cheek area inwards as well. Then bring the forehead forward a little bit as well. Now add a subdivision surface modifier to the mesh, and in edit mode, enter edging mode, and select the entire midline, this edge leading up to the nose, and the corner edges, then press Shift E1 to max out the crease on all those edges. If you want, use Shade Smooth. Back in sculpt mode, let's add some volume to the cheeks by moving these areas forward, and similarly fill out the brow ridge area / forehead area as well. Now apply both of the modifiers and then reapply your auto mirror. Select these specific points in the middle of the mouth and delete them. This will be important to apply the circle loops concept on the lips. After deleting, select this loop, extrude it, and then scale it down. Make sure it aligns from the side view, and let's quickly straighten out these verts. Let's scale that down a little more and move it closer to the center. Now create a loop cut in the middle of that and follow along by selecting these points and pressing F to create a face. One here as well. One more. Loop cut these new faces in the middle and select these 2 points and close that out. Now shrink that down, select these points and use proportional editing to move all of these closer together on the x-axis while slimming down the cheeks a little further. Quick sculpt fix to smooth out these rough edges. And one thing I shouldn't forget, take your knife tool and cut this across. This will set up our lip loops for later. And now let's create eye sockets by selecting these 2 points and deleting them. Use Loop Tool's circle to round these out, or you can just round them out manually. Turn off proportional editing, scale this down on the z-axis, and move it backwards into the face. Push in this inner corner of the eye. We'll worry about the exact shape of the socket later. And let's add another key feature by selecting the eye loop, extruding it, and scale it down ever so slightly so that we can select the outer loop like this. Make sure all of it is selected, then edge slide it outwards, which allows us to create that supporting eye loop and brow ridge. Add subdivision to the mesh once again. The socket should not be sticking out at the side like this, so let's make these 3/4 angle tweaks inside of sculpt mode. And here are some other tweaks I did. Pushed out the cheek a little more, pushed the mouth area slightly more together, worked on the contour of the bottom of the nose. We will definitely continue to retouch these areas later and add touches that will be specific to our reference and the art style that we're going for. Now, once again, apply all of the modifiers. So apply the mirror, apply the subdivision. It may look pretty dense now, but this is the last subdivision we'll apply. And we'll actually start culling some edges now. But as you can see, now we have those lip loops available within that diamond-shaped loop that we discussed, as well as the supporting loops around the eye socket. Select this edge in the middle of the mouth, then press V to split the edges, creating the opening of the mouth. Then select these 2 edges on the top and bottom, and from the side view, push them out a little bit. Let's add another loop cut here for more lip detail and do the same, push it out a little, and create a curve with it. The generic base is now finished. The process up to this point can be followed step by step, but the next phase is art style specific. So focus more on the mindset and adapt according to your reference and target art style. For example, now I'm gonna cull some edges to match the mesh that I'm referencing. So I dissolve this edge right under the nose loop, slide in the surrounding edge to average out the gap that was created. And I'll also cull one vertical edge, making sure to select through the mouth too. And as always, slide it to even out the spacing. I noticed that the loops on the outer edges of the Wuthering Waves face are closer together on the outer edges, so I edge slide that out a bit. This helps with the face contours and gives space for the mouth loops. Let's cull one of the mouth loops now, and average out the spacing by sliding out the inner rings. Still a little dense around the cheeks, so I cull a couple more of these horizontal edges, and average out the spacing. Now it's time to do a sculpting pass because removing those edges definitely changes the form a little bit. So I retouch the nose, making it slimmer, and work on the forehead and the cheek, retouching and adding volume. And now let's work on this mouth area. First, I'm gonna use proportional editing, selecting these parts and moving it upwards, glancing at my reference for the exact mouth placement. Now with sculpt mode, it's time to puff out these lips. Optimally work from the bottom angle and protrude the middle of the lip first, then sculpt laterally to get that transition to the outer lip. Same concept applies to the bottom lip. Now moving on to contour the face shape, it's wider towards the forehead and tapers at the cheeks. Take note of the cheek slope midpoint around the bottom of the lip area. A general rule for lip width is that they should be slightly narrower than the eye gap. For the signature Wuthering Waves pout, bring down the corners of the mouth. This is also just basic anatomy. The corners of the lips naturally sit below the lip line. At this point, it all boils down to this. Spot as much differences as you can between the reference and your mesh, then apply them to your own. Don't be tempted to overlay trace. Side by side is fine. Tracing will only rob you of your own gains. Doing this process independently allows you to slowly absorb all that professional knowledge, which expands your mental library and deepens your skills. So similar to my ref, I increase the density on the outer edge and add a loop. Let's push in the lip opening a little bit. For placement tweaks like this, your best friend is Control Num Plus and proportional editing in combination. Following my ref, I straighten out these edges by doing scale to 0, and I'll do it for the edges on the side as well. The next one is a pretty big change. We're gonna shift the location and alignment of the mouth diamond. I cut a line to the edge that I want to redirect it to. Then I dissolve all of the edges that don't follow this new flow. This does mean that we have to have another pass of retouching because the form's been shifted. So in hindsight, maybe it's best to do this at an earlier stage, but it's not a big deal. All right, this is the last edge that we needed to cull, and we can fill that blank space with the new cuts. I'm gonna push these outer edges out a little more to make room for the new loops and to mimic the spacing on my reference. Filling the space with a couple more loop cuts. And as you can see, that eye socket area will have to get retweaked, as well as the overall shape of the circular and diamond loops. So let's work on that a little and also dissolve one edge here on the bottom half of the mouth, because earlier we culled one edge that was on the top half and touches the lip line. A bunch of manual tweaking here to harmonize the new edges. And let's tweak that eye socket as well. I've been working with the ref externally, but sometimes it's good to bring it in for the side-by-side. With a closer look, I can see that my mouth loops are more football shaped. So let's slide them around to make them more circular. Our nose loops have this double magnet shape, but the target just has this straight across. I'll just merge these 3 points and slide them in until they're straight. There's also potentially some edges there at the bottom of the nose that we can dissolve. And I can see that our brow ridge is slightly different because the pole location is one lower than the target's. To fix this discrepancy, let's merge these 3 points and merge down the edges that are above it and to the right of it. This allows the brow ridge area to synergize more with the nose area. We still can cull an edge off the nose bridge and the top lip. There's some considerations when doing that, so I may address this in the next video. Okay, moving on, I'm just going to fix the direction of this edge because it looks a little like it's curving the wrong way. In the eyelid area, they increased density with this triangle formation to make sure that curve is nice and round. We also did one more loop cut around the socket, and you can knife in the pattern just like so, triangling towards the middle of the top of the face, then cutting a straight line upwards from the apex of those triangles. Then you can just tweak those added resolution points to get the right curve for your eyelid. Looks like there's a lot of tweaks we have to make on the profile view as well. The eye socket area is even flatter than I expected, so we can just proportionally scale that down and cave it more inwards if needed. This area is flatter and cleanly separates the cheek and the nose, and the deepest part of the nose bridge should be higher up to about the middle of the eye. The target nose is also a little further out and a little more upturned. So let's do a sculpting pass to include all of these changes. I also moved this eyelid edge a little inward and the eyebrow edge a little forward, and I will go over this in more detail in the next episode when we start adding the eye features. A similar triangle density change is applied to the top of the forehead, which we can mimic simply by adding these triangles with our knife tool and dissolving the middle edges between those triangles. Just a small optimization because the forehead does not deform, nor does it need all of that geometry. It now has most of the important features of the target mesh. Next time we'll continue this and attempt to recreate an anime character into this game's art style. Comment hot anime characters down below, and if they're hotter than the one I have in mind, then I might pivot to that one instead. Thank you so much for watching, you guys are my goats. I'll see you in the next upload, have yourselves a good night.